what's your whole take on supplements?
Supplements should be thought of as supplements. Have good relationships, drink water, see the sunlight, move. This is all the stuff that changes your life. Now, if we want to add some little ice cream on top, this is where supplements come in. If I had to add every supplement in the whole world together, I'd probably say most supplements change whatever you're measuring by 3 to 10%. It's not 50%.
Yeah, it's not that much.
It's not 90%. But if you're at a certain level where you've done the big stuff that does move the needle by 90% or 200%, and you are looking for that last 5 or 10%, well, now like a supplement can potentially do that.
So should people take it or not take it? I want to get to nutrition. I've been dying to ask you about this stuff. Okay. Optimal nutrition, optimal diet. I know there's so much information, right? Like about intermittent fasting, fasting for 24 hours, whatever is 24 hours, keto, non-keto, paleo, vegan, blah, 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 blah. Can you talk about nutrition beyond just eat a lot of protein, right?
Sure.
Like, what is the optimal? I know everything's very individualized based, but what is the optimal diet for high performance?
Define high performance for me, but some categorical rules I can answer here.
Okay. For optimal cognitive performance.
Cognitive performance is a different answer here, right? So you can go into the small details with examples like people like to bring up blueberries. Lots of research, a cup of blueberries per day is actually going to have statistically significant and clinically meaningful improvements in cognitive function. We use this very routinely. It's been very well demonstrated.
Okay, I know. Blueberries, wild salmon. I
got it.
Right?
All the stuff. It's all true.
It's all true.
It's all honestly super true. So if you then wind back to some of your previous questions on that, does it matter which format that you like to give yourself structure with? You're like, what the hell did he just say? You could have called that a diet. That's all diets are. They're just a different format that gives you structure.
Right. Right. Okay.
That's all it is, right?
Yeah.
I don't even call them diets because it's nonsensical.
Do you think eating, I mean, I love breakfast. Can I not eat breakfast?
Of course you can eat breakfast.
They're like, oh, well, you won't be in autophagy and you're going to be, blah, blah, blah.
That's
won't make you.
Garbage. Like almost all nonsense.
Right.
Out of that stuff. Fasting is insanely overrated. I like it. I do it a bunch, but if you're thinking that skipping breakfast in the morning is going to solve almost any of your health problems, you're generally massively misguided. If it is helping you avoid triggers, then awesome. If it is helping you manage your calories, awesome. If you don't like breakfast in the morning, awesome. Totally fine. We actually just, on the way over here, I submitted back revisions. Our paper should be accepted in the next couple of days. We ran a study on intermittent fasting in our laboratory. So I'm not against it at all, but I'm certainly against people thinking that they have to do it for any short or long-term reason. You have to figure out a way to get yourself high quality foods. You have to figure out a way to manage calories somehow. And if fasting is a way that checks those boxes and a positive, well, great. If it doesn't, then I don't care at all about it. I will promote a 6-meal-a-day diet as much as I will a 1-meal-a-day diet. Whatever is that, those are not the factors that matter. The factors that matter are the other things. Now, having said that, we will use things like fasting a lot for cognitive performance with things like our surgeons and our firefighters and our other responders, because they generally are going to go, hey, I can't take a break every 2 hours and go snack, right? I'm in a 16-hour surgery. I'm in a 9-hour surgery, right? I need to perform really well given these constraints. Awesome. I don't want a surgeon that's getting hungry every 2 hours and scrubbing. They're going to be like, dude, no, zero chance. So in situations like that, or again, the firefighters are another example, or military, where you're like, hey, I need to be able to be on for these big chunks of time and then feed and then great.
So you're training them for what their lifestyle is.
100%. But I would never do that for a PGA golfer. Never, right? That would make no sense for us whatsoever to do that. We need to have different constraints and different performance variables. So those people generally eat way more frequently. If you have a personal preference, if you have anything else, so it's
Why?
always about precision.
Why?
Because their tournaments are not at the same time. Sometimes they tee off at 6 in the morning, and let's say they're a West Coaster and they're going to go play a tournament on the East Coast. They're teeing off at what's 4 a.m. their time. And then they're going to play a 5-hour round in August in Florida. It's going to be super hot, right? And they got to turn around and then play. So we have our energy demands are really, really, really high on those tournaments.
So
right?
what kind of optimal diet would you put a pro golfer on?
So it's honestly, it's all the big stuff. You're going to manage calorie intake one way or the other, right? We're going to focus on getting high amounts of high quality foods. So we're eating mostly whole, real foods. We want a variety of colors. We want a variety of preparation methods. We're going to use a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables, a lot of meats if we can.
But are they eating more regularly?
Generally eating very regularly.
Like 6 times a day? Or
four
5?
to 4 to 6.
Versus the surgeon or the firefighter, or
Yeah.
that makes perfect sense. Also, is it true? I mean, again, this is it that women and men, if intermittent fasting affects women and men differently?
Okay, yes and no.
Okay.
Here's what I'd say. Intermittent fasting affects different people differently.
Okay, not gender specific. The reason why I say gender is because I found that for women, I've noticed the response is different overall. Like some women think it's the best thing in the world. There's a bunch of fasting experts, doctors, who think that like it's a shanda if you don't fast.
Sure.
Right?
I have coached world champion females in 6 different sports. And I have coached a countless amount of females non-athletes. I can't honestly say, yes, women generally need to do more fasting. Or
I
do
say
it
the
better.
opposite. I think it's worse.
Or I will say, like, of all the females we've coached, and this is 18-year-olds to 68-year-olds, right? I've coached the whole spectrum, a lot of them. It's just a person-to-person thing,
Okay.
more than it is a male versus female thing. Some of our women just do way better when we eat more frequently. Some of them, it doesn't really matter. Some of them, it's like, it's just, again, it's like an individual thing more than anything. So what we like categorically never do, and I'm trying to like triple check my brain, but yeah, I don't think there's anything we ever specifically do just because someone walks in and they're female versus male. Like there's no like, oh, automatically we train this way or we do this with our food. We do the same individualized programming. Like it's a variable we pay attention to, but there's no buckets you just go into because you show up and you're male or you show up and you're female or you show up and you're anything else, right? So we're really going to pay attention to that. And we test, we're actually doing a trial right now. My grad student Zoe is running a study where we're actually doing the first ever detailed sleep analysis throughout the entire menstrual cycle. So we're looking at blood. We're directly testing high fidelity sleep every single day throughout the entire cycle. We're directly testing blood. We're directly testing ovulation. We're testing these things every single day for maximum precision. And one of the things that you'll see is things like menstrual cycle length is not the same from woman to woman. Everyone knows that. But it's not even the same within each woman. Okay. But let's say it is. Let's just say you're a 28-day cycle, like all the time. Great.
Right.
Your ovulation cycle is not the same. And this really, if you test it every single day, cycle after cycle, you'll see this pop up. You don't necessarily ovulate on day 14. That
Right.
doesn't
No,
always
I know.
happen.
Yeah.
Right? When like men are like, what is he even talking about? But girls are like, no, dude, it's finally, right? This is exactly.
Totally. Yeah.
So we're not going to make critical decisions about their nutrition or supplementation or stuff based on like well, you're a woman, therefore you should be ovulating day 14, and therefore here we go. We're going to test these things and then go, okay, for you, this is what's going to go on. This is what we're going to do based on your physiology.
You said something though. You said there are 6 things that are fundamental in your nutrition for optimal.
Yeah. Calorie balance, whole real foods for the most part. We want a reasonable balance of macronutrients. By reasonable, that could mean some people do better on a really high fat, low carbohydrate. Some do the opposite. Really low fat, really high carbohydrates. Some don't care at all or are in a balance. So when I say reasonable, I'm just saying like what is actually working for you or not. And we can play games there. high performers, not high performers, lifestyle preferences, taste, digestion. Like we can mix and match, particularly fat and
Yeah,
carbohydrates. Okay. We almost always though want a moderate to high protein intake, like
totally.
almost always right there. And then we want a lot of variety in our colors. We need a variety of micronutrients, vitamins, chemicals, phytochemicals, minerals in there. And so we like a lot of color. We like a lot of different sources of those things. That's basically what everyone does. The way that we get there, different.
So let's talk about protein, right? Different types of protein. Um, what do you like? What do you say would be the amount of protein someone should eat a day, basically?
Gram a pound.
Gram and pound, same as everybody else says.
Yep.
Okay. So give me what do you eat? Give me what you eat every single day.
Sure. So most of the time I'm walking around about 170 pounds. So I'm looking for 200 grams of protein a day, like plus or minus, right?
Okay.
I don't weigh and measure at this point hardly ever anymore. So some days I'm probably at 130. Some days I'm well over 200.
Right.
Most days though, I'm probably going to be swinging within 30 or 40 grams of that number, right? So in the morning, I generally wake up. When we get going, I'm going to almost always have eggs and some sort of wild game meat.
Wild game meat.
I harvest my own. So I'm going to eat deer or elk or bear or like something every day.
What? Bear?
Yeah.
What do you mean bear?
Bear. Like the animal, like Winnie the Pooh, the bear.
Like a grizzly bear?
I can't hunt grizzly bears very often, but black bears are pretty easy to get. So they're quite tasty.
You've hunted a bear?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, of course, isn't
Of
everybody?
course.
I didn't. I feel like I'm losing out. I'm missing out on something.
It's quite tasty.
You've eaten a bear?
Many times.
Okay, is it fatty? Is it like what is
It
it?
depends on if you get them post hibernation, like you do a spring bear hunt, they're going to be much leaner, right? You get them prior to like a later winter hunt, and they're going to be much fattier. It's not like any other animal, though. It's weird. It is weird to me when people, no offense, but react this way. Because if I said like, "Hey, I ate a cow," you'd be
Yeah.
like, "Of course." But then like I say, I ate a beer, and you're like you can't comprehend.
Cannot comprehend it.
Deer, people don't freak out, but then bear, like, of course, right? They're like any other animal that we can hunt and eat.
How is it different than a cow? Taste wise.
The general thing you'll hear people say about bear meat is it's greasier, right? So it has this like weird thing, and that like can be off-putting. It's not gamey though. If you get like a white-tailed deer and you get it's not processed properly, or you get it like during the rut, then you'll get that like classic gamey taste. That'll smell weird. But a normal non-deer or non poorly processed deer was going to taste fine. Bear will be the same way. So if you get it when it's been feeding on a bunch of rotten salmon, then it's not going to taste tremendous, but you'll know it pretty quickly. But on average, if we had lunch right now and I made it for you, you would have had no idea. You'd eat it, whether we're eating like the steak or the burger of it or whatever the case, you'd be like, you wouldn't have had any idea of what I just put in front of you. If I gave you something like axis deer, then you'd be like, that's the most delicious thing I've ever had. What the hell is that? But you wouldn't be like, oh my God, I feel like I just ate a deer. You would have no idea. It's tremendous. I love wild meat.
Wow, how often do you eat this
Every
wild
day.
meat? Every day?
Every day. Yeah.
Does
I
your
have
family eat this too?
Of course. Like if my kid was right there and you'd be like, do you eat bear? They would be like, yeah. Like what? Like they wouldn't have any reaction at all to be like, of course, because they don't know any different.
So do you hunt? Do everything you eat you hunt yourself?
Not everything, but we try to for the most part.
Do you ever go to Whole Foods?
No. I haven't been to a grocery store in many, many years.
How many years?
My wife goes. Like,
Oh, okay. So so it's
Yeah.
not that because you don't believe in the grocery store.
yeah, we'll eat, I don't know what a fair number is. Maybe, I don't know what percent, but like we still buy grocery stuff, particularly if we want a specific cut or something that she's making where she wants like a specific way it's prepared. Then she'll buy their stuff. But in terms of like our general meat consumption, I probably have, I don't know, 400 pounds of frozen meat at my house right now between elk and axis deer. And, I have some mule deer still. And then the salmon run just got done. So, My nephew brought over a bunch of wild salmon, so we got a bunch of salmon in there. We got clams and we got a bunch of other stuff. What else do we have in there? Like, it's just like we're in the winter, so we just got done with all those, like the seafood season. So we got crabs in there. We got a bunch of other stuff. So, yeah, we eat a large portion, but we still buy, like sometimes occasionally even buy cow and beef and things like that. Pork, of course.
Not of pork. I mean, I'm Jewish, so I don't eat pork.
My wife's Jewish and my kids are Jewish too, but
Oh,
she's
really?
a bad Jew.
Yeah, no,
We
no,
eat
yeah,
pork,
yeah. She's a bad Jew.
Yeah.
Most Jews don't eat pork, but
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
pork now sounds much better than bear. I got to tell you.
No, well, pork is more delicious. I will give you that.
I can't even believe you just said it so matter of factly, like everybody eats it.
It's just like not even a thing that pops up in my head is weird. It's just like so part of that's just how I grew
What do
up.
you make with bear? You said bear steak.
Well, so only thing about bear you got to be careful of is there's a non-zero chance that it has trichinosis, and so you would not want to eat bear rare at all, or even medium rare. So even if you're like very rarely, you don't do the only part of bear that I'll eat a steak will be like the back straps or the tenderloins, which you can do, but you want to cook them well done. But outside of that, you're pretty much going to go to other cuts, stews or roasts or grounds or things like that. So you can make like stews are really easy. Grounds or soups and things like that are totally fine. And then the rest you'll do sausage and different grounds and things like that. So we eat a lot of
A bear sausage? How do you make a bear sausage?
same as any other sausage. Take a bunch of meat, put it through a grinder, and then add any other stuff you want to add in there, depending on if you're trying to make like bratwurst or breakfast sausage or spicy jalapeno or like some other combination. So you can make it however you want. We're out of bear meat right now. I think we're pretty much done, but we're pretty loaded on axis deer right now.
I can't even right now. Oh my
Elk.
God.
We just got back. I got a really nice bull elk this year. So we got a lot of elk meat right now too, which is tremendous.
Do you go hunting with Joe Rogan? I feel like he's the other one that does
No, actually, we haven't gone together, but we've just missed each other a bunch. We have a lot of the same friends.
Yeah. Well, the Huberman connection, I would imagine. Isn't
Well,
he
I
friends
knew
with
Joe before Andrew did. I knew Andrew way before. But I'm actually going this spring. I'm going on a bear hunt with Cam Haynes. I don't know if Joe's going to be there or not. He may be, but I haven't asked him about it. But we'll be up there together. Yeah, so we have many friends. So
That's crazy. Okay, so because I was going to actually ask you about in the nutrition sense, like what kind of, I mean, in terms of quality protein, I think you're going to say obviously animal protein versus plant protein.
depends on how you want to define quality. There's a lot of back and forth. Obviously, as we just been
Yeah.
talking about, I'm clearly a big fan of meat and animal meat.
Clearly.
But I think there is ample evidence now that people can live a really high performing life on plant-based stuff as well. I work with a bunch of plant-based athletes and they perform fine. So we can get there as well. I work with some like really famous local musicians that they are plant-based. So you can get there. I'm not as bullish on that as I used to be. More
really?
evidence has come out that's like, okay, the only thing you got to pay attention to a little bit is, of course, limits options. And you have to be really conscious of calories with that because you generally have to eat more of it, or you have to get it in forms that are more calorically dense, right? So if you try to equate something like, 4 ounces of
Right.
Maui Nui axis deer to get the same amount of protein as you get out of peanut butter, right? You're going to be eating 150 calories of protein from the Maui Nui axis deer, and you're going to be eating 700 calories from the peanut butter. So your overall calorie intake has to go way up depending on how it's packaged.
That's like with vegans, right? Like,
Yeah, it's tough.
It's tough. And like, that's why I don't understand. Like, to me, you get the most bang for your buck with animal protein.
Like my opinion
Yeah.
on that clearly, but it can be done well.
Would you believe in protein shakes? Like, I know you're a fan of
yeah.
Momentous. I'm a fan
I'm
of
definitely
Momentous.
going to drink this as soon as we're done.
Oh yeah, this is slate. This is like the on the go. These are delicious too,
Yeah.
by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, I have at all times I take. In fact, they were just around here a second ago.
What?
But those travel momentous protein things, I always have
yeah.
like 20 of them with me at all times.
That's the thing. Yeah, I was going to give them to you because I thought that.
Yeah.
they're very easy to take and travel
Yeah,
with.
I always take them. So if it's a what's actually cool about Momentous too, they just changed their whey protein formula. Have you seen this?
Which tell me,
They took out there's no gum in it anymore. There's no fillers. and there's no,
I saw that.
the artificial stuff in there, and they took the price way down.
I mean,
So it's way cleaner.
do you know, that's funny you say that, because I'm a big fan of Momentous, as you are, because I think that there's a lot of confusion, right? Because there's so many brands on the market. This is, by the way, not an ad for Momentous, but I swear, because they do something called triple test. Have you heard of this whole?
Yeah, no, I know this because I've been working with Momentous for a long time. Disclosure here, they are a sponsor to my show, and I personally am on their advisory board. But I'm saying that because they asked me for many years, and I said no for like several years. And then they changed leadership, and these new people came in and they developed what they call the Momentous standard. And so every single product that they make is third-party tested.
Yeah, third party. Yeah.
It's tested also for heavy metals, for pesticides, for herbicides, for toxins, for lead, for a ton of different stuff, right? Which very, very few supplement companies actually do. And then on top of that, most of their products have what's called NSF, certified for sport, which is something we have to have for our athletes. So it's all third-party tested, and then a bunch of it has all this additional stuff. So it's when I saw them doing all that stuff, I was like, oh, you're actually like putting your money where your mouth is, because everybody says their products are the cleanest and
exactly. It's
whatever,
hard to tell, because that's the problem with all of this. You don't know who to trust because everyone says everything, and then you're overwhelmed. But then I heard, and that's why with Momentous especially, I trust their products.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of different studies come out though regarding chocolate versus vanilla whey. Is it true that chocolate that has more heavy metals and lead overall, and it's less healthy than vanilla? Have you heard this before?
No, I haven't heard that. I'm not sure.
Really?
No.
I just read something about this yesterday, that chocolate has more, they found more toxicities or a lot of different things in protein powder.
Yeah, I could believe it.
Really? How?
Well, I mean,
Why chocolate versus vanilla?
I have no idea.
It's weird.
Probably, if I had to guess, knowing what I know about the supplement industry and the food industry in general, a lot of the times multiple companies are buying from the same distributor. So my guess is, something like that is happening. Ultimately, I don't really care, because the fact that the products that I use are all
clean.
Tested anyways.
Exactly.
So I don't really care.
That's why, guys, you have to be very careful what products you are like. Listen to trusted sources. Listen to
and
Dr.
there are
Andy
other
Galpin.
companies that make good stuff too in the supplement world, but like I just particularly prefer Momentous. So if you don't like them for whatever reason, great, find another one. But just whatever you do, especially for things like supplements and food-based products, just make sure that they have the same kind of level of testing. If they do, then fine, go with somebody else. If they don't, though, be careful.
How do you know that companies are telling you the truth?
Well, okay, actually, number one, you don't necessarily, unless your company's. This is ridiculous. It sounds like we're doing a giant ad for Momentous.
I know, but we're so not, by the way.
I'm really not.
I'm gonna clip this and send it to them. They'll be very happy, because this was not planned.
Yeah.
I swear.
Companies like Momentous, though, will let that testing available. So, like, see it, like, show me the testing results, right?
Yeah.
The other way is, and this is something like we don't talk about very often, but we will routinely see heavy metals and other toxins in people's blood work. And then you go back and see, they stopped taking those supplements from non-tested places, or places that say that they're tested,
right?
But they're not. And you don't know it's from them, right? Things like mercury could be from
fish,
anywhere, right?
Yeah,
totally, right? Or even lead could be could be 1,000 places, right?
Right.
And so not every time, but many times, the only change we make is we stop taking those low quality supplements, and then guess what happens? It's gone in their blood.
Really?
So there's many steps in logic. I jumped there. That would be a bad science experiment if I just said it that way. I didn't control for all variables. It could be generally toxin in blood are acute exposures anyways, they clear. But it's happened enough times where I'm like, all right, like you got to stop taking those crappy supplements.
Right. No, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So while we're talking about shakes or protein shakes or smoothies, what do you think about the fact that there's been a lot of, someone came on this podcast recently, a while ago, and talked all about how when you have a shake and how when you blend the shake, the way your body digests the fruits of the shake is much different in the blending process. The your insulin spikes way higher than just eating a fruit by itself. Is that accurate?
I'd have to know exactly what the person said, but I can add a couple of things to that. Number one, if you're going to compare something like a whole food to the fruit juice,
Not fruit juice.
right?
Taking a banana
I'm getting there. And
and blending it. Okay.
So, but let's start where we all agree.
Okay.
Everyone would agree with that, right?
Yeah,
Why
totally.
we're missing the fiber intake almost exclusively, right? Fiber is going to mitigate blood glucose spikes and elevation. Great. Second step then is, what if I take that whole apple, banana, peach, whatever it is, eat it as a whole apple versus blend it up? Well, you'll actually see the same thing with meat. A steak versus ground meat versus actually blended meat, because these studies have been done. You like blend it up and you drink the meat.
Drinking the meat?
Yeah. For this exact reason, right? It is what happens if I pre-digest, basically, pre-break down the food item. There are differences. There are differences in absorption. So the amount that you actually get from the gut actually into the rest of your system is kind of how you can think about that. There are differences. That said, how much of a difference in that particular example of if I ate that peach or if I blended it up, how much more would that cause my blood glucose to spike? I would probably, if they showed me data that said it spiked it more when you blended it, for those other reasons, I'd believe it. Does it do it to a magnitude that I care about? I don't know. Maybe. I don't know the data. I don't know the specific study that they're referring to. My initial skepticism, you can see there. I don't know if I would care enough, but it's plausible based on what I do know from studies, in a very similar realm. So I'd say plausible, but I don't know. I don't really do that very often, so I'm not super worried about it.
Right. Well, maybe not you, but other people who have to like be more conscientious of their
Look. Here's how I'd say it. Yeah, that's the
insulin,
thing.
their sugar, that.
It depends on how far up or down that priority list it is for you, right? If everything else is really dialed and this is the last little thing to figure out, then maybe this is making a big enough an impact. But if we're still worrying about this over top of the other big rocks we talked about earlier, you're eating 20 grams of protein a day, you're having irregular sleep schedule, then I'd be like, dude, you're way focused on the wrong thing.
So
it could be real, but whether you need to focus on it or pay attention to it would be up to what the individual situation is.
Right. And also, I guess, so in terms of just, it's better to have that than have,
That's exactly right.
like French fries or something.
Totally.
Right.
Exactly. Right.
So
Or
like, pick
missing
your
a
poison.
meal or whatever other the case is, right? So would I rather have you blend your banana strawberry smoothie rather than just going to the store and buying yes, it's still whole real food. It's still better probably than adding additional processing steps to it.
Totally.
And I don't know if it represents some marginal increase in blood glucose elevation, just go for a walk and it's all gone. So who cares?
Right. Right.
It's pretty easy to manage.
How about fiber? People don't talk a lot about fiber.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
they
super
talk,
important.
right? People talk a lot about protein and they're missing the fact that fiber helps with your whole like nutrient absorption, right? If you're not absorbing your nutrients, you're kind of fucked. Right?
Yeah, it helps with, darn near everything.
Yeah.
From short and long-term gut health, to mitigating blood glucose elevation, to nutrient absorption, to helping manage cholesterol levels, a ton of other reasons to go after it. I would say in general, we've probably increased fiber intake more than we've done the opposite. And I said that because there actually have been, and we just had one last week. Young 32-year-old guy is just on top of everything. Lots of IBS symptoms, was just convinced he had something happening with gut health or whatever. Okay, run stool tests, things like that. Take a look at it, and he's eating like 50 grams of fiber a day. Okay, what's that mean? The kind of rule of thumb we say is for every 1,000 calories you eat, you want to eat around 14 or so grams of fiber. So if you're eating 2,000 calories, you should be having, that would be 28 grams of fiber, which would mean, all right, somewhere between 25 and 30, like, plus or minus.
Yeah.
These numbers, like, don't get too specific with them. If you're at 3,000 calories a day, maybe something like 40, 50 grams of fiber a day. So when I saw he's like 50 grams of fiber a day, I'm like, oh, okay, he must be at a pretty high calorie load. Calorie load was like 1,800. And I was like, oh, well, I know why you think you have IBS. You have triple the fiber intake. And that's going to tear your stomach to pieces, right? We also see this a lot with people that are really health conscious or trying to be really health conscious, and they jack up insoluble fiber really high on accident. They do things like, okay, I'm going to cut out all my starches. I'm not going to eat any more pasta, no more grains, and I'm eating all vegetables. And their broccoli intake, they're eating 3 cups of broccoli per meal. And all of a sudden they're just like, damn, and I'm getting like all this bloating.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, well, yeah. How about we switch out a cup of broccoli and put in a pizza? They're just like,
Wow.
well, yeah,
Really?
sure. And all of a sudden they're like, yeah, my GI problems went away. I'm like, well, no kidding.
Because so you can overfiber.
Of course.
Because can you also get constipated if you overfiber?
No question about it. Because remember, there's 2 types of fiber. There's soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. Insoluble fiber, here's a clear difference. If you took a glass of water and put it on the table and you put something in that water, if it would get soggy and soak up the water, like imagine putting a piece of bread in water.
Yeah.
Fill up, okay? That is a soluble fiber.
Yeah.
If you put a piece of broccoli in water, it wouldn't do anything.
Right.
That is insoluble, right? Well, the same thing happens in your GI tract. So both soluble and insoluble fiber are really healthy. They're really good for you, but they have different functions. So if you get a ton of soluble fiber and you don't have insoluble fiber in there, like boom, things will shoot through. You'll probably go like really constipated and then boom, diarrhea or like pretty loose stool, right? If you do the opposite and you jack insoluble fiber up way too high, you could just really have like tons of bowel movements. Maybe you're not watery, maybe not. Or you could, again, feel constipated. So both of these things could be causing either end of that spectrum, depending on where they're at. So when you just have way too much fiber intake, especially in a quick span, so you've just made this change. You went from eating like 8 or 10 grams of fiber a day to now eating 35. You're going to just go bam. Like your stomach is going to have one of 2 reactions and neither of them you want.
Wow. I thought most Americans or most people were not eating enough fiber.
True. Vast majority. I would probably say 90% of the time we've having to give people more fiber. 10% of the time have been people eating like too much fiber. I would say if you had to pick one, error on the side of 40% too much fiber rather than 3% too little.
Right.
Right? Like really you want to make sure you're at or above the number. But if you're going crazy and you made all these changes and it's new to you, it's the change that matters, right? So if your GI system's not ready for that, and all of a sudden you're just like, man, I'm eating all these healthy foods and oh my God, my stomach I'm just gassy and like all these problems, then maybe tone down the broccoli, for a little bit and get some easier to digest forms of fiber for a little bit, and then maybe work your way back up if you need to at all. But yes, most people are not eating enough fiber.
How about fiber supplements?
You can. We have used these a lot, whether they are things like Fibermend from Thorne is great, or Metamucil, right? Like psyllium husk, like lots of different things like that you can do.
I have one called BioMe here. Have you heard of that one?
BioMe?
BioMe. It's
No.
very clean. It's like a fiber supplement that it's supposed to be very clean and good for you.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We've used those in times, probably most often when, and this is not me, we have medical doctors and things like that on our team that'll do, if you actually have like gut problems,
Yeah.
let me fix your gut, right? That's a big part of those gut healing protocols, right?
Right.
But where we have used them more are things like in caloric deficits. So as calories come down, sometimes micronutrients, vitamins, minerals come down. This is when supplements and stuff start to come into the equation. And oftentimes a lot of the athletes we work with or general population will go through phases of caloric restriction. And then if fiber starts to get hurt there, we'll bring in then fiber as a supplement. I usually would rather get fiber from whole food, but we will turn to supplements in those particular cases. And it's really helpful, particularly during those last few weeks. And you're just like, man, not really regular right now. And like, okay, great. And we can take some psyllium husk or something like that.
Yeah.
And get your stomach not feel so suboptimal. Then it's pretty helpful.
How about in terms of supplementing, what's your take? Are there supplements that you think are definitely like 100% you must take? Do you think supplements are overrated?
Yeah.
What's your whole take on supplements?
Supplements should be thought of as supplements.
Okay.
Have good relationships, drink water, see the sunlight, move. Like this is all the stuff that changes your life.
Right.
Now, if we want to add some little ice cream on top, this is where supplements come in. And so we use supplements quite regularly. Supplements do work. When people say things like supplements are a scam, they don't work. I just don't think they can read. Like I'm generally thinking they cannot physically read.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
well, there are thousands of studies on supplements, right? They're being kind of jerks when they say that, but what they're trying to say is supplements don't have the magnitude of impact that most people think. And that's true. So they do work, but they generally don't work like people think.
Yeah.
It's uncommon for you to take one supplement and your life changes.
Right.
That's not the kind of impact supplements tend to have. If you want numbers, I don't know, if I had to add every supplement in the whole world together, I'd probably say most supplements change whatever you're measuring by 3 to 10%. Like it's not 50%.
Yeah, it's not that
It's not
much.
90%. But if you're at a certain level where you've done the big stuff that does move the needle by 90% or 200%, and you are looking for that last 5 or 10%, well, now like a supplement can potentially do that. Now, there are some supplements like a fish oil that will move the needle in those really big numbers, like fiber potentially. And then there are others like a creatine, where the impact is more going to be in that 3 to 10% range, but the safety profile is high. They've been tested in every clinical population you can imagine, from brain damage to brain injuries to neurological disorders to pregnancy to kids to weight loss to young to old, right? And they very rarely have any negative side effects of any. And they generally improve a wide range of outcomes like lean muscle, like brain health, like mood, like cognitive function. They're not doing a lot. They're not at the same order of magnitude as a drug would do. But this is a context. So if you hear that and you think, oh, I knew it, they're a scam. Well, great. That's your interpretation. If you hear it and think, oh, that's what I thought they did. Well, then great. We're on the same page.
Right.
So ultimately, I don't really care if you love supplements or hate supplements, as long as you know and have an honest understanding of what they will do and won't do, then you can interpret that however you see fit, as long as we're on the same page with what the expectations are. And I think that is a fair way to view supplements is, again, that 3 to 10% is probably a normal impact range.
So you're saying, okay, you just said you said creatine
Yeah,
because
creatine's fantastic.
it's the most studied, right? Is that overall?
One of the most studied supplements in the entire planet. And again, across a range of people and populations, young to healthy to old to muscle to brain to immune system to sort of everything else, right?
How about, is there any other supplement that you think is
Yeah,
the same?
fish oil would fall into that category,
Okay.
right? So fish oil has just been so well documented in numerous areas. If you want to look into things like protein powder, if you want to call that a supplement, or
How about vitamin D?
vitamin D is very well established. It's very hard to go toxic with vitamin D. It has a number of physiological benefits. It's been shown to be effective in many, many, many things. I would generally put vitamin D in a little bit of a lower category than something like creatine and fish oil, but it's
Really?
still, it's like 1 and like 1A. It's not like it's level
No, only
D.
because vitamin D has been like, it's kind of become the panacea for like,
It has.
for optimal performance overall.
Yeah.
Creatine is one of the newer things that it's very trendy that everyone now is talking about.
The only reason, well, there's a number of reasons why I'm not like as there. I would probably say, some large, I'm going to make this number up, but 98% of people, vitamin D is either good to innocuous.
Right.
I'm not really aware of really any downsides to vitamin D. Again, the toxicity profile is enormous. You have to get way, way, way too much for way too long for it to generally matter. There are probably 3 papers, but they're old and it's far from extensive evidence. But they do make plausible sense that, and we've seen this also like in our practice. You have to just be a little bit careful with vitamin D in the sense that vitamin D is a storage molecule. So it helps you put things away and store them. So if you have had like moderate to low vitamin D and you've gone on, say, 5,000 IUs, which is a normal
Right.
supplement dose, or 2,000 IUs, something like that, and you did it for a long time and your vitamin D levels in your body didn't increase and you're really consistent, probably one of 2 things is happening. Number 1, there is a long history of vitamin D supplements not actually containing the amount of vitamin D in them that is listed on the bottle. And that range is enormous. And so it is stop number one on our logic train. Occam's razor says you took a bunch of vitamin D, but your vitamin D levels didn't move. You probably
Wow.
didn't actually take vitamin D. I'm telling you, not only are you going to be avoiding mercury and toxins and lead and cadmium and stuff in your supplements, but you might actually not be getting the ingredient. Very, very commonly seen with vitamin D. Extraordinarily common with things like melatonin and other supplements. These have been well documented. Actually, we published a paper a couple of years ago. Somewhere between 10 and 40% of supplements on the market are going to be either adulterated, mislabeled, or have some other fatal flaw that you would significantly care about. So this issue is rampant. Now, in America, most supplement companies are pretty okay. But when you get into India and some other countries, you just start to see level of contaminations that are just like mislabeling that are like completely outrageous.
So also with like omega-3s or with everything,
You pick a
not just vitamin D.
Yeah, I think in our
obviously.
paper we covered like 12 or 15 different supplements, and you can just see the mislabeling, the contaminants, the
Wow.
things
Sorry.
like that, right? And there's a lot of papers on this.
How about magnesium? What do you think of
Let
magnesium?
me finish vitamin D.
Oh, I thought you were done. Sorry, you took a
No.
breath, so I
So
thought.
a good chance that you just didn't get the vitamin. That's the most likely scenario.
Okay.
Another scenario is because of what we know that vitamin D does. You may be down regulating it endogenously on purpose. And that's because you're trying to clear a heavy metal. And so again, we don't have extensive evidence on this. This is more of a couple of papers have been written on it 20 years ago. Nobody really followed up on it. So I don't want to falsely represent like, oh, this happens all the time and freak people out. Again, 99% of the time, like we use it all the time. It's great.
Yeah.
But as a thought exercise more than anything, if you're in the presence of a combination of some micronutrient insufficiencies, as well as heavy metals, you don't want to ramp up storage molecules because you're trying to clear those metals. And so then when you're going in and smashing that vitamin D supplementation, you're making it harder on your own body to clear those heavy metals. And so this is oftentimes what happens. And we have seen this like pretty consistently where we will take vitamin D supplementation away from people and their vitamin D levels will rise. And that's because it allowed them to clear a heavy metal eventually. Their body can get back to homeostasis, and now they can actually get back to a normal, healthy, functioning vitamin D status. So
wait, so vitamin D prohibits the clearing of heavy
yeah,
metals?
it's gonna have it stored because it's gonna force things to be stored as much as you possibly can. That's what it's doing, and it's doing many things.
So if you're someone who eats a lot of sushi,
Yep.
right, like I do, and a lot of people do, right, and we automatically have high heavy metals, and we take vitamin D, the 5,000, the one that you're talking about,
Yeah.
that most people do. Does that mean that we are like by accident
Potentially.
storing heavy metals in us?
Potentially.
So how do we know?
Well, number one, we would say let's look at your
tested?
blood, yeah, and let's make sure that none of those heavy metals are there. And let's look at urine. Let's look at a couple of different places because depending on what heavy metal you pick, you may be better looking at hair versus urine versus blood. Like it's actually fairly complicated science there. It's also a very, it's a lot less straightforward of a science than people think. So let's just sort of leave that aside. But number one, we would probably go backwards and say, you got to stop eating so much fish in that
Right.
particular thing, right? That's probably going to solve your problem. We have seen that more than a few times, and just down regulating known heavy metal consumption products is a better way to go about it. If past that, we have to go to like level 3,000 where we're now taking vitamin D, like fine, we can get there. But most of the time, I'm generally going to say, unless we have a reason to take vitamin D, I'm not going to take it. If your levels are reasonable, then let's just come off of the supplement and see what happens. If you come off of it and you stay where you're at, then we're good. If you come off of it and they start coming down, then maybe we go back on it.
What about magnesium?
Yep. Magnesium is involved in, again, about every dang metabolic process in your entire body. You pick your favorite thing, whether you like mitochondria or brain, like you pick the thing you're into, and I will show you how magnesium plays a critical role in that. If you also look at the research, and this is really hard to glean for some reasons I'll talk about in a second, but if you look at the research historically, you're going to see pretty high numbers of the population having insufficient magnesium intake in their food. Why? We're generally going to get it from foods that people don't like to eat.
Like what?
Dark leafy greens,
Oh,
other things like that, right? That are not common in our diet. Other not, like you can get it from animal products as well, but they're the uncommon ones, right? So a lot of times we have insufficient intake in people. In addition to that, the more physically active you are, the more magnesium you get. So you start combining all this stuff. It's one of the really common ones where people just don't have enough of. Now, you can easily get magnesium tested in your blood, but you got to be careful here. Magnesium in your blood will tell you a lot of insights into a lot of different things in your body, but it won't tell you much at all about how much magnesium you have.
Really?
Because 60% of your magnesium is stored in your bones, not in your blood. It's the same thing, but not as bad as calcium, right? 99% of your calcium is in your bones. So calcium levels in your blood tell you a tremendous amount about what's happening, but it doesn't tell you that much about calcium storage concentrations. Magnesium is the same. Again, most of it's not going to be in your blood. And so if you were looking at magnesium in your blood, you're basically looking at an incredibly transient marker. And so if you get your magnesium drawn one day, to do it again the next day, those numbers are going to be wildly different. You get it done a week later, it could be wildly different. So I would not use a direct blood test of magnesium as your only marker of whether or not you're eating enough magnesium. You'd have to do much more invasive testing, which is just not a realistic thing for the most part.
So should people take it or not take it?
Kind of depends on their physical activity. If we would strongly prefer you to get more magnesium in your diet, if you can go there. That said,
not take the supplements.
We use magnesium supplements constantly, really constantly. I take it almost every day personally, and we recommend it to a large percentage of the people we work with.
But then why do you say that you'd rather get it from your diet?
Well, we do both. We're going to double dip.
So you do believe in magnesium supplements?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're super effective. You just what I wanted to be careful of is the fact that you didn't look at your blood levels of your magnesium.
But you said even if you look at your blood, it doesn't.
You can use it for a lot of cool stuff, but just don't assume put it this way. If you look at your blood draw and your magnesium is really high, don't be like, well, I'm good. I don't need to eat magnesium.
Right.
That has almost nothing to do with what's actually happening in your body. So you still might need a bunch of magnesium in your food.
And by the way, there's a million kinds of magnesiums.
Yep. For this actually used to be a wild area, and it has toned down in the last like 5 years a lot. There used to be a lot of ineffective forms. Those have mostly been cleared on the market, to be totally honest.
Okay.
Most of them are pretty good. If you want to go with kind of the most common forms of it, you're going to see are like magnesium malate, magnesium bisglycinate. Those are like the most common ones. Mm-hmm. The magnesium oxides and stuff are almost all gone.
How about citronate?
Yeah, you can do that fine as well. It just has a little bit to do with the chemistry of how they're brought in. Obviously, Andrew Huberman is, for the most part, popularized magnesium threonate. It's fine. You can do that as well.
What is that? Actually, I didn't even know he did. But what is it? What is that?
Just a different form of it.
I'm probably one of the only people, by the way, who don't listen to the Huberman podcast on the regular. I listen.
You're
I like
literally
your
like
stuff.
the only girl. You're probably the only person in the entire world who doesn't listen.
I am the only girl. For sure, the only girl. That's 100% true.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy's become like a rock star.
He's the best.
But I've listened to a few. I listened to yours, actually.
So I'm talking about.
Right?
So what you're basically saying is Andy Galpin, Andrew Huberman.
Exactly.
Got it.
Exactly. No,
Cut me that clip. I'm going to take that to him right now.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, I like Andrew Huberman. We were texting for a few minutes, like for, I don't know, years ago. He was supposed to come on this podcast and he basically like ghosted me.
I don't feel bad about that.
Oh, I feel bad.
Yeah.
I do. If he's listening, which I'm sure he's not.
I've known him for years. We were really good friends before he ever had social media.
Yeah.
And he ghosts me all the time. And I ghost him all the time.
Well, he's too cool for school, apparently, because now he doesn't answer. So we were DMing a little bit. We were on text. We were introduced by close friends. And then he like went dark. And I'm like, you know what? Screw that guy. I don't want him on here anyway.
I wouldn't take it personal.
Well, how could I not take it personally? He didn't.
Look, when you go to, I'll leave it at this. When your world changes as fast as it did for him,
I agree.
It's really, really hard. I could tell you 1,000 stories.
Oh my God, you can tell me. I mean, listen.
But,
and also, I defended him with his stuff. Is he a nice guy?
Oh, he's the sweetest.
Okay, can you tell him you're friends with him? Say, can you please go on this girl's podcast because you said you would many years ago?
I will not say that because here's why.
Okay.
The second I go do that, do you know what's going to happen to my inbox of other people
I won't tell anybody.
Okay. Sure. Except for
I
the
won't.
hundreds of thousands of people that just listen to
No,
that.
no. I'm not going to tell a soul. No, because that was this is by the way happened like I don't know 2 years ago. And by the way, not for nothing, but I knew of him before he had the following. Like I was watching him before he had like 50,000 people following him on social media. And I'm not saying it's because of me his career exploded because that's not what I'm saying. But I did say to about a zillion people, there's this guy, he's a neuroscientist, he's got a great voice, he's so knowledgeable, you have to listen to him. And I sent his stuff like his little Instagram stuff to hundreds of people. And
Man,
it just caught on like wildfire.
look at
You
you.
see that?
Yeah.
See, you're welcome. You're
Well, I
welcome,
expect
Andrew
that treatment
Huberman.
personally.
What was that?
I'll expect that treatment now
I will
personally.
100. Listen, I like people who like know what they're talking about. You know,
Yeah.
he's obviously he's very smart. He's academic. But you never did the Stanford role. Like that wasn't you're Parker, right? Is that
At
your
Parker
school?
University in Texas. Yep.
So how do you guys know each other? What's the relationship? Like how did you guys
Oh,
become
science. We
friends?
collaborated on a bunch of projects. We did actually a couple of projects involving a group at NASA trying to do some stuff in human performance there. And then we
Years
have,
ago?
yeah,
Like how long ago are we talking?
8, 9 years
Oh,
ago.
wow. Okay.
Maybe like something like that. Probably potentially more. I honestly don't remember. And then when he made the decision to have a public life,
Why did he want to do that anyway?
become public,
Yeah.
well, there's parts that I'll let him share if he ever chooses to.
If he ever comes on the podcast, I'll ask him. But
Yeah, but I mean, he has an enormous passion. And if you gave him $5 trillion right now, he would still do his podcast. He genuinely just really likes reading research and talking to scientists. And once I was like, dude, not just clearly me, but like so many of us were like, this will work, man. Like, just do what you want to do, and this will work. And he was like, really? Like, people will listen to that? And everyone was like, yes, yes, yes. And then we were right. Like,
you
we
know
were
what's
all right.
yeah, you know what's interesting though? He has made science popular,
Totally.
right? Like
100%.
like he really did. Like before him, people really were kind of talking, but on the periphery.
I'm not like, I know he's a close friend of mine, but the reality of it is he is very, very legitimately the Carl Sagan of this generation.
You think
Right.
so? Yeah.
No question, right? Nobody, look what Carl Sagan did to physics and that entire field, right?
Yeah.
He made it a thing kids cared about. Right?
Yeah.
Everybody knows him. And there have been other, I'm not saying
No,
Andrew
he
is-
made it cool. He made it cool.
but he took over the podcast space. I mean, think about this. He is a neuroscientist
Right.
who almost only talks to people who have no social media following and are others. He does not bring in celebrities and guests, and not that he hasn't, but
He does a little bit.
the overwhelming majority of the people on his show have either never been on a podcast or only been on a couple.
Right.
And the first bunch he brought in, nobody had ever heard of.
100% true.
Right.
Yeah.
So he and it's like, here, I'm going to bring on a guest that doesn't have social media, doesn't have a mailing list, has no promotional power whatsoever. And we're going to spend 2 hours talking about the science of emotional adaptation. And you're like, what? And that now is one of the most popular podcasts in the world. So when we just zoom out and go, wow, like he didn't do fat loss and he didn't do he didn't do like all the clips and the hits and bring in people
Totally
that,
true.
and now he takes this, that to me is the Carl Sagan of our generation.
You're right. I wonder what do you think the X factor is about him that made that
he has the Conor McGregor package. He has an like unmatched intellect.
Yeah.
His retention is off of the charts.
Yeah.
His physical appearance is perfect. He's Stanford. He's a neuroscientist. His energy, his delivery, like he has all of those factors that go into it. He is himself fit and healthy, and he interacts, his lifestyle. If you see him behind the scenes, like he is the genuine person, right? This is like, there's no skeletons there at all. This is what he does. So when you put that all together, you're like, oh, yeah. Like he has all other people that have gotten big, like you have you have 1 or 2 of these. He just has it all.
You're right. And he hit fast. Like it was crazy. Like I remember when I found him at 50,000 or something so small.
Yeah.
And then like, I've never seen anyone track that fast. Like he's at like millions and millions. Like he's become mainstream. Like I think probably my mom knows who he is. You know what I mean?
For sure.
Like it's so bizarre.
Yeah.
Right.
And you know what I love about it the most, other than like being happy for him? He's so punk he only ever does things the way he wants to do it. And from the gate, like he didn't do any things of like, oh, you have to do this to optimize. You have to do this. He's just like, no, like I'm just like, and if it works, works great. Like whatever. Not from an arrogance
Yeah,
perspective,
no,
but
I
just
like
being like
that.
true to himself and like, this is what he wants to do. This is a topic he wants to talk about. These are the papers he wants to read. And like, that's what he's going to do.
I like
And it's
knowing
worked.
that.
It's great. It's great. Like no one deserves it more than he does.
I like to, oh my gosh. By the way, this wasn't an ad for Andrew Huberman either.
Yeah.
It just seemed to be like, well, he's glad that I'm glad he has a friend like you, but you can tell him on the side, listen, this girl, you said you were going to do her show many years ago.
Well, get in line with all the other people that
I
he
don't want to get in
promised.
line.
He promised.
Why does he promise? He shouldn't do that though.
You know, honestly, people get mad at him about this, but this is here's what will happen with him. He will genuinely be excited, like super excited to do something and want to do it, and he'll say yes, and then he'll look at his calendar and it is going, and he's like, damn, and then it just gets buried on the thing. So it's not disingenuous at all. When he says yes to something, he legitimately is very excited about it. And then reality sets in of like travel schedule and other things, and it just like can't physically happen. So he probably should be better at being more realistic about his commitments. I will say it that way, but it's never like, she's not popular enough or he's not cool. It's always like, yeah, he's super into it. And then it just.
Then
can't
why
always
is he
grab.
showing up on other shows?
I
Like,
can't promise you. I don't
you
know.
don't know?
It's timing, it's fluke, it's all the,
Okay,
it's all the
okay.
lucky things, right? Like,
All right,
you
because
know,
I see him
it's
on
not the
Joe
first thing.
Rogan. He has time for Joe Rogan.
Well, fair enough.
I'm just
Yeah.
I'm just saying. I'm just
Yeah.
saying. Okay. Well, anyway, Andrew, you're more than welcome to come on the show if you
Yeah.
so have the time. Okay, what was the other thing? Okay, so I forgot what I was even yammering on to you about. I was saying to supplements. Oh yeah, let's just go with, okay, we're gonna end with this. Give me the day in the life of what you do. You're talking about your kids and
Yep.
your morning routine. You're kind of going into your nutrition, and then I cut you off with
Yeah.
something else. Tell me what
You got all excited about the bear meat.
I got the bear meat like threw me totally off, and I
Yeah.
was like very excited. So
Yep.
we got the morning down. Okay, and then what happens?
Yeah. So I'll eat that
And what
stuff.
supplements? I want to know everything.
I will eat those things as well as always some fruit in the morning and then generally some starch. And I have a pretty big variety of what I'm going to choose for those categories.
Okay.
Supplementation wise, it is.
Oh, wait, one more question about fruit. That was what I had down here. I'm so sorry to interrupt you. What's your take on too much fruit?
It's unlikely to be an issue.
Okay.
You can have too much of anything.
Exactly.
But-
Calories is calories. Now, let's get this straight, because is calories in versus calorie out? That is a real thing.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
you can't avoid that.
100%. And people are like, it's not about calorie.
Yeah,
Yes, it is. And I will tell you something just quickly, because you can eat fruit, but I will say I'm a huge fruit person. I can eat 5 pounds of grapes in one sitting, no problem. And I will gain weight from it.
Yeah.
It does happen.
Sure. Well, calories matter.
Calories matter. Thank
Yeah,
you.
it doesn't matter, right? Are calories the only thing that matters? No. Is it the most important thing? Maybe not. Is calorie measuring the best dietary system? Maybe not. But that doesn't mean calories don't count. There are ways that it looks like the calorie in, calorie out system is not working for you, but that generally means a miscalculation on calories in or calories out, right? Because the body does lots of adaptive things.
Yeah.
To mitigate and manage what happens there. So yeah, calories matter, and that's like anything past that is details now. But you can't make an argument that calories just don't exist or matter, right? So all of my supplements are very specific to either my goals at that time and or what's happening in my physiology. So it changes.
Okay.
I don't just take the same thing. all
You
the
don't.
time.
You're not
No.
just like. Have you heard of something called NAC? NAC.
Sure.
How important is that?
Somewhat high to none, right? So you're talking about a precursor for glutathione for the most part, right? So it
Okay.
has generally you can think of it as like a pretty potent antioxidant. Not something I would tell everyone to take. You have to be really careful, especially with timing of antioxidants, especially powerful ones like that. If you're trying to induce any physiological adaptation, this comes in response to insult. So you cause an inflammatory response when you exercise. If you then block that inflammatory response with an NSAID, with NAC, with vitamin E, vitamin C, then you will mitigate and block adaptations.
Really?
This has been shown many times. You have to take a pretty high amount, but if you're trying to cause stress and then you're stopping the stress from happening, you're stopping the physiological response.
But I thought taking antioxidants is a great,
As
isn't,
antioxidant supplements are something you should be very conscious of. High antioxidant foods are almost always okay. So if you're eating more quality foods that are higher in antioxidants, this is almost always a good thing. But now when you're taking them in the form of a medication or a supplement, you're getting extremely high dosage in non-natural combinations, if you will.
oh,
That becomes
wow.
really problematic is almost a fair word to say. So
In
be
what way?
really
What can
conscious of it.
happen?
It's the same what I just explained. So if you're overly suppressing inflammation, inflammation is a signal for adaptation. It is a signal for blood clotting. It is a signal for cognitive change. It is a signal for neuroplasticity. If you're going in and smashing and maximally suppressing that, then you don't have any stimuli for adaptation. Like this becomes a problem. And so we do not just prophylactically take antioxidants of any kind. If we have a very structured reason for that, then we might put some in there. But then we're going to come off of them as soon as we can. But we do not just put people on, especially high-powered ones like NAC, and just as like a, go take this for forever thing.
Okay, I want to tell you about one that I saw it on Instagram and I went to buy it. It's called okay, hold on a second. I'm going to show you on Amazon. This is very important because it was like, I thought it was like, they said it's the #1 antioxidant, blah, blah, blah. So important to take. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'm missing out on something here. Okay, and it's called astaxanthin.
Astaxanthin?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. That's your blueberry stuff. That's just like the ingredient down the list, and it's one of the many awesome things in blueberries, cherries, and things like that. It's phenomenal. Lots of research on it. It's great. Again, though, I would say the same thing. We're not going to take those unless we have a reason for that, because you have to be conscious of what you're trying to do signaling wise in your physiology.
Well,
And this is a potent one.
It is a potent one.
Very
So I
potent.
thought because it's an antioxidant and it's supposed to be found in blueberries, it's great for your skin and da 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 da. I thought, wow, like more is more, not less is more.
No, definitely not the case. You can get away with higher than needed amounts of protein, of fiber, but you start getting into, here's a general rule. If it is a macronutrient, fiber, water, protein, carbs, fat, no big deal if you eat excess, okay? If it is a micronutrient, if it is a vitamin, if it's a water-soluble vitamin, you'll just pee it out. So not a big deal for over-consuming water-soluble vitamins usually, with some exceptions, vitamin C, things like that. If you start getting into fat-soluble, and if you specifically get into minerals, be really, really careful of high concentrations of exogenous minerals, iron, calcium, even something like potassium. These can cause real significant and serious issues. So I wouldn't go to any of these things. Phytochemicals are in the same realm. Antioxidants. You really should be conscious of using those things unless you have a reason. If you are training super hard and you're peaking for competition, we might add in some antioxidant supplementation. If we're in a particular area of the world, let's say, or traveling with a lot of pollutants, or you're going to be interacting with a lot of people and you're worried about, you're going to be sleeping a lot less, and you have other things that are going to suppress your immune system, we might add in some antioxidant support there. But if not, we're not going to touch those things. Oftentimes, if we're having any immune-related issues, there's something causing it, and we're going to go back and solve that problem, and then just let your immune system and your physiology do what it wants to do and get out of the way.
So I should get off of these things.
I wouldn't take them unless you had a real reason for it.
Well, I went to get my blood done by this guy who took 300 of my blood markers, and he said that I need to take it.
Well, again, if you have a reason for it, then...
That was 3 years ago, though.
Oh, my God. Well, you're not the same person.
Okay, I got to get my blood taken again. Wow.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Thank you. I'm glad you came just for that.
Yeah, no, that's... I'd say, like, if you're all, like, at home and you're confused, don't have blood or whatever, if you are leading a inactive lifestyle, and or you eat a bunch of low quality food, or you do something that is known to be pretty deleterious, like excessive alcohol or smoking, or you live in a place that has really low air quality.
Here in LA right now.
Right.
So should I be taking it now because
Maybe
of the air
okay,
quality?
maybe, right, exactly. Right, then okay. But if you're checking most of those boxes, I wouldn't without blood work or without some particular reason, I'd probably stay away from most antioxidant supplements.
Okay, I need to ask you again because I'm actually very serious about this now. How much is it if someone comes to see, because you have all these labs and these tests. If I came to you and said, "Hey, I want to be your client, can you coach me?" You personally aren't, you're not going to coach me. Don't lie. You're too busy to coach me.
No, there is.
You're going to coach me
So
yourself.
we have a program called Optima that I personally coach.
You're going to
That's
coach
me.
me.
That's me directly.
How much are you? I'm going to hire you.
Yeah, it's look into the program.
Okay, I want to know. I think people want to know. I bet you people are curious. Like, how much is?
It's not a reasonable number that most people can afford.
Is it $1,000?
You're pretty low.
5,000? Like,
It's
what
not-
do
it's not-
you? Is it is it by hour, by month?
No, our coaching program, our full immersion coaching program, it's one program, one price. That's
much?
it. It's not a la carte.
How much?
It's more than you're thinking.
10,000.
So if you want, what you can do.
You can't be embarrassed if you're actually charging this
I-
price. You
I'm
have to
not-
be able to say it out
I'm-
loud.
I'm not embarrassed. It's just better this way.
Why is it better this way? Because people are going to be like, "Oh, this guy sounds really knowledgeable."
You can look into the program and you can see if it's your fit.
And you do it yourself.
The Optima program, I personally coach.
Okay.
This is where I personally coach.
Will you tell me afterwards?
When I say like I coach, this is not like people in my company. This is literally the people I'm coaching.
Okay.
Then we have a more affordable program that I have built, and I did coach for years and years and now I don't personally coach in that one anymore. At the same time, you can do something like just our blood work. So our blood work program is called Vitality.
Okay.
It's like about 100 markers, I think, plus or
You
minus.
said 115-ish.
Yeah, and then there's again probably another several thousand that it's calculating after that.
Okay.
But that will not only pull those markers, it'll analyze, it'll interpret, tell you exactly what all these markers and combinations and cross reactions mean, and then tell you exactly what to do to not just fix the marker that is high or low, but to fix the cause.
Who does that? Who gives me that?
It's all automated in software.
So it will tell me.
So you'll run through it. Your results will come back in. You'll get an alert. You'll pop on, and everything will be analyzed and interpreted for you. It can walk you through, hey, this number is high. This is what it means. This is what it's doing. And then do exactly this to correct, maybe not that number, but correct the cause of that problem. And it's all automated for you.
How much is that program?
That's $1,250.
A one-time fee.
Yeah, and if you buy, of course, like semi-annual or multiple, it's cheaper.
Does someone come to your house and take your blood?
You can do that if you want. Yeah, you can go to a local lab car or whatever. You can do mobile phlebotomy. I think mobile phlebotomy is a separate charge on top of that, $1,200, but usually it's a couple $100 or less or whatever.
Okay.
Or you can go to LabCorp. So you can get into blood work for that's very affordable. Our absolute rest sleep program is much more expensive again because it's.
I'll tell you. I'll ask because I want to know just in general because this is. I want to try this stuff, and obviously I don't know why you're embarrassed to say it.
It's not at a price where you're like, I want to try that.
It's not like a pair of shoes.
The blood work program may be like in the number that you're like, oh, okay, I'll try that.
Yeah, this is probably more.
But this is not. This is like you better be very serious because it's almost a year-long program, and so.
And you have who's the biggest athlete you've done, by the way?
Define big.
Like someone who's optimally known to be optimal.
We've had the highest contract.
Patrick Mahomes.
And we've had the highest contract in sports probably 6 or 7 times.
LeBron?
Not LeBron, but
Patrick Mahomes?
Not Patrick.
Tom Brady.
Had him. But we have had everything from Travis Barker. I still work with Travis. He's phenomenal. To Fred Warner, who's the number 1 linebacker in the NFL.
Okay.
Trevor Bauer, he signed the highest contract in Major League Baseball history, won the Cy Young. John Rahm, behind Tiger Woods, very likely the highest paid golfer in the world. Probably 1,000 that I'm forgetting at this point. I'm always terrible with remembering, but these are some of the big names that are right now on the top of our list. But plenty of Hall of Famers, MVPs, Cy Young winners. Again, the highest contract at the time, at least 6 times.
Do you train people personally?
Yeah.
In the gym?
Yeah.
So you do the whole thing, but you live in Seattle. Do you travel all the time?
I do a little bit, and then I mean, I lived here in LA for like 13 years.
Oh,
So
okay.
like Tatiana Suarez, my daughter knows her. They're like best buddies because she come to my house and like trains at my house
So
for
were
many
you a
years.
trainer too? Like you did this
The
stuff,
coaching, yeah.
like you did the whole thing.
Yeah, Brian Ortega, UFC fighter,
Yeah.
like he lives here
Yeah.
in LA, right? So I, hundreds of times like
So
been
were
to the
you a
gym.
trainer then? Like if I were to say, hey, I want a trainer, can you come over? Kind of thing.
Well, oh, sort of like strength and conditioning coaches
I know you weren't
generally
really
how we
like
call
you're
it,
not like
but
you're
like
not
if you're
like
asking
a
like if I'm in the gym taking them through their training programs, yeah,
yeah. So you do the
100%.
whole thing from kit and caboodle.
I did that for many years. I first started coaching professional athletes like in the gym personally in 2003.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've had a lot of pro athletes that like I have directly personally coached in my house, in the gym, in different formulas, things
All
like
the
that.
different things.
So
Yeah.
I'm not in the gym with them as much anymore, like I said,
Yeah.
but I'm still actively coaching many of them.
Right. Well, I think you're different than like, I mean, you're obviously so knowledgeable. Like that's the thing that at a certain level, like they need people like you. You can't just be a trainer doing squats and lunges.
Yeah,
You have to
which is
understand.
just great too, right? But
Well, but I'm saying that everything serves a purpose, right? To
yeah,
get to the next level of
yeah.
like these intricacies, right? You need someone who has a background in all of these things.
And my
And he's
interest
fair.
clearly is in like a little bit of all of them.
Yeah.
So I mean, honestly, I didn't have it in me to be a full-time only strength coach or a full-time only scientist. I much prefer doing kind of a little bit of everything
Yeah. Holistic approach.
and then having a whole bunch of legitimate experts that I work with to bring in to be true experts in those fields,
In
right?
what they're good at.
So all of our stuff is like a team approach, right?
Yeah.
So we try to bring in the best physical therapists, the best behavioral therapists, the best conditioning coaches, the best medical providers, and say like whatever you need, you're going to get a legitimate world-class individual in that category. And I generally sit kind of like on the top is a bad way to say it, but I'm kind of the first filter that goes, yo, this is where we need to go with
You're
this
the
direction.
quarterback, basically, of the program.
Kind of,
I
yeah.
get that. Okay, quickly, in 2 minutes, give me your day to day. Okay, I know you eat
Yeah.
bear and eggs in the morning.
Yeah.
Then what happens?
And fruit and starch,
Yeah.
almost always a few hours into the day, I'm going to have like a 40-gram protein ingestion right now for probably 2 months straight. That means I'm going to do a double scoop of momentous. Like I promise you that's true. Like it's just
I
not
believe
another
you.
thing.
Yep.
So I'll hammer that and then maybe another piece of fruit, which makes me feel great. And then we always do lunch and dinner is the same thing. And so it was like, we'll make dinner and then double the thing and have it for the next day.
Smart.
So I'll explain to you lunch and it's the same thing as
Okay.
dinner. But it's always a combination of 6 to 8 ounces of meat of various kinds, a giant serving, like an entire plate of vegetables. And this is an enormous variety. My wife is a tremendous, I won't say chef, but basically a chef. So she's makes all kinds of things. Some serving of fat there, whether that's going to be nuts or cheese or an oil or
Balance,
avocado,
yeah.
whatever the thing is. And then depending on the day, some varying amount of starch. So quinoa to rice to sweet potatoes to regular potatoes to sourdough bread to like any number of things. And then the meal in between that could be something like yogurt and nuts or some other thing like that. So you kind of run that thing out and you can see like 200 grams of protein is pretty easy to get to.
And then other habits, like you work out at 2 or 3 o'clock.
Yeah, like in the afternoon is when I like to train. Sometimes that gets pushed back a little bit.
Do you do what
but
kind
I
of
feel the best.
do you do push pull?
Now I do if I'm gonna be lifting weights, I'm generally going to be doing full body.
Oh,
I don't do body part splits at all. And then what I do is I will oftentimes rotate like strength training and then some sort of conditioning. And the reason I do that is because my travel schedule is what it is. I would not have success doing I lift legs on Monday, or I just do the next workout the next day I have a chance. That's however I do it, right? So if I have 7 days in a row, I'm going to train 7 days in a row because I might have 4 days in a row of like terrible travel, right? Or
Right.
nonstop media, blah, 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 right? Where I'm like, okay, there's just no reality of me getting a 45-minute lift in because I got to take my Uber for an hour. Like
yeah.
I don't have 3 hours of a break, right? Because I'm on the road, or my hotel doesn't have a gym, or whatever the case is.
What? Where are you staying? At the Ramada Inn now, or where?
Well, like depending on where you're at, like you get,
I know.
depending on what city you're in, and you're all over the place and timing and things like that, right? So I'll just do the next one. So my conditioning could be anything from, like 15 minutes of really high intensity sprint work, or it could be longer duration, lower intensity. It could be, like an hour walk. Could be all kinds of different stuff I do. And then my workouts are generally going to be, again, like I have a coach. I have a full-time strength conditioning coach for my program.
Yeah.
Tim DeFrancesco does my stuff. He was a former strength conditioning coach for the Lakers. So really, really high level, but like I pay him to write my programs.
Yeah. That's, by the way, the best in the world have coaches.
I did my own stuff for decades, and it's just, I will never do it again.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Never.
Yeah.
So he does all my programs, and he's awesome about changing stuff up as I'm going or whatever.
And if you're motivated, then you don't need someone to stand with you, right?
I don't need that
You
at
just
all.
need them to kind of give you the program.
Honestly, personally, when I train, I don't want anybody around.
Yeah, I'm the same way as you.
Like my whole life is talking to other people for the most part,
I know.
whether it's our companies or my students or whatever. So when I can have an hour to myself, I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I don't
I'm
want
the same
anybody
way.
else around. So I love having a remote coach like that. But that's generally what it is. So my day, like that's what I'll eat. That's how I do it. The kids are home, usually like 6 o'clock. We're doing dinner, and then it's like family time the rest of the day. They're in bed at 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock is, wife and I time to do whatever. And then it's wake up the next day and do it again.
Wow. By the way, I'm so sorry. I kept you here for 3+ hours. I could go on and on. You're probably, my leg fell asleep like 4 times.
Yeah, all good.
But okay, I'm going to let you leave because I know you're probably like, when is this girl going to shut
All
up?
good, all good.
And I can go on and on, but I'm going to let you peace out. Okay. Okay, you guys, this is again, Dr. Andy Galpin. Check out all his programs. Check out his podcast. Check out his 6-part series with Andrew Huberman, who he loves, and he's great. You're great. Would you come back?
Yeah. I'm in LA somewhat routinely, so we'll definitely do it.
Or because I would love to have you on like semi-regularly if you
Yeah,
can
let's do it
stand
again.
it. Because if I'm going to ask these questions, I want to ask them to someone who pretty much I can guarantee has the answer in, who knows the answer, not just making up shit as they go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, yeah. I don't know about that, but okay.
Okay, well, just pretend.
Yeah, all right.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.